All right, one. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. I never know when it's going to go live. It takes for a second. Welcome, welcome, welcome back to another cause-driven conversation with Carson Henry and
Andre Anthony.
We're glad to have you guys. We've got another phenomenal experience for you. I told you last week to look forward to a special guest. I'm really excited about today's cause-driven conversation. We're throwing all the rules out today. We're just gonna ask him all the questions we possibly can. We're gonna stick to the full format. But for those of you that are new, I just want to remind you. So cause-driven conversations are we're a brainchild of the Emerging Leaders Resource Network. They're for you, emerging multicultural leaders in the Y movement. And basically, what they are is an interactive session where you, the audience, get to watch me and Andre have conversations with people that we respect and appreciate from around the Y movement. And like I said, today we've got a great one for you. We always do this virtually because we're always in different cities or across the country. So Andre, where are you at today?
Still, I mean, I've done everyone in my office in beautiful Rockford, Illinois so far. So I'm batting 1,000. You, my friend, are always all over the place.
Well, I, of course, am always in a different location. And today I'm enjoying my lovely backyard here in Laurel, Maryland, just south of Baltimore. And James, where are you joining us from today?
I have the pleasure of joining you from Boston, Massachusetts.
So look at that. We're covering almost the entire country right now.
Sure.
So we're so glad that you're able to join us today. And James, you know, one of the things that we do when we get started is we always start with a general introduction. A lot of people, when we do Y introductions, people say how long they've been with the Y, how they got started. One of the things we like to do is like get to the essence of who you or how you identify as an individual. And we do that with a general introduction of who you are, who you really are, what you do, and what you really, really do. So, for example, my name is Carson Henry. I'm the Executive Director for Youth and Family Services here in Washington, D.C. I am about to get married, a beautiful woman named Ashley Funk, who also works on your African American Resource Network.
Yep.
And what I really do most of the time is feel like I'm putting out fires and providing emotional support to my entire community. Right. So that's a little example of how we do it. How about you, Andre? You want to introduce yourself?
Andre Anthony, Executive Director of the Youth Achievement YMCA here. That's my title, but what I really do is develop community. What I really do is, care for our staff, both emotionally and support them in any way I can, and do the same for our community. So that's a little bit of what I really do. You let me keep going, I'll go for an hour. So James, if you don't mind, kind of taking that and
all right,
making it your own.
All right, so I'll follow that format. I'm James Morton. That's who I am. But who I really am is I'm an angry black man who is deeply frustrated by the conditions that Black and Latino folks are forced to live in America. Conditions that are totally unacceptable. That we live in a community where folks are worried about deportation, the loss of their health insurance, substandard housing, the denigration of public education. They're living in communities plagued by poverty, hopelessness, and despair. And so I'm angry about those conditions. And so, what do I do? I'm the president and CEO of the YMCA of Greater Boston. But what do I really do is I use my time and my talents and my energy, as well as the time and talents of this incredible team that we have in Boston, to take constructive revenge on those conditions that I just mentioned. We think that it is our job in Boston to change the conditions that poor people are forced to live in, and we do that with great pride. We do it with vigor. We do it every day. So that's who we are. That's who I am, and it's my great joy to be with you this afternoon.
And we're so glad you're with us.
Con mucho gusto.
Yo, James came out the swinging. Let's go. This is gonna be good. So, James, as a leader in the Y, what would you say? You just spoke a little bit about that, and thank you. What would you say is your greatest joy in your position, or really just in your position, both as a president and CEO of the YMCA of Greater Boston, as well as your position as an individual in this Y movement?
So I offer two responses to that question. My greatest joy is to see youth and teens who are happy, safe, and who are joyful. Because I think that safety, that happiness, and that joy will ultimately lead them to have greater value of themselves and everything else around them. And so that is the first key, I think, to creating communities that really support and foster children and help them to reach their fullest potential. And so that brings me great joy. The second thing that brings me great joy is supporting in whatever way I can the next generation of leaders in this incredible movement. I have enormous faith in our capacity to be an agent of positive social change, but positive social change does not happen without sound leadership. And I just, I'm always amazed to attend these regional MLEs and to be in the presence of young leaders who are excited about their work. And so it brings me great joy and makes my heart feel good to support them.
That's awesome. All right. So speaking of Emily and all the multicultural development, one of the things we're talking about, or the reasons why we're having this conversation with you, is because you're part of a feature that we're doing with all the leaders of the ERGs from around the USA movement. And specifically, where you're heading up the AAR, African American Resource Network. So if you wouldn't mind, could you take a second for those folks who may have never heard about, what AARN is, and those who maybe think they know what you're doing, could you just do us a favor and just tell folks about what you're doing and then what kind of like big objectives your team is working towards?
So the African American Resource Network is a group of individuals who are deeply committed to many of the things that I just mentioned. When we get together in person and when we have our monthly phone calls, a lot of our conversations are about what can we do to create better, more vibrant communities where we serve individuals. And we also understand that our ability to do all of those positive things depends upon us having this peer community, this community that supports one another, having this network of individuals who are deeply committed to making sure that not one of us is successful, all of us are successful. And so we set ourselves up in such a way as to have a committee structure that accomplishes a work plan that we develop in the fall of each year. And in this year, as everyone will probably recall, some of the issues going on in communities around police community relations, we decided to take on the task of putting together a toolkit that would help YMCAs across the country be able to deal with those issues when they arise, but more importantly, to be able to take steps to prevent the tragic events from happening in the first place. And so, we led the cause to create that words to action toolkit, which many of us are using in our work on a daily basis. And so a big part of what we try to do is also create opportunities for other leaders in the movement who are African American to experience what leadership is, giving younger leaders an opportunity to participate in the steering committee of our African American Resource Network, putting some serious responsibilities on their shoulders and giving them some room to innovate and come back to us with answers and strategies that are important to our ultimate success. And our ultimate success is making sure that every African American who is in this movement remains in the movement, gets the support, gets the encouragement, gets the stimulation and motivation that they need to become leaders of this movement at the highest levels. So that's what we do.
Ooh, okay.
There's no small.
All right. So I'll follow up on that, James, if you don't mind. There, I have kind of two different ways to go with this. So one, I would love, in the spirit of, we're also trying to integrate every now and again one of our core competencies. So right now we're talking about community, right? And at the Y, we truly do believe that community matters. So when you think of a peer community, such as your work with the AARN, so there's a community of peers and individuals in the Y that you're a part of, as well as community as a whole, when it comes to, you know, Boston and police relations and things like that. Can you speak to us a little bit more about why that matters so much? Why it's so important to step away and be a part of that peer community, as well as those relations.
So yeah, absolutely. So let's take the AARN and why that organization, that network, that peer community is important. First and foremost, I will share with you a number, and the number is 10. I've been in the YMCA movement for 10 years. So how does someone go from being outside of the Y movement to having the kind of experience that I've had over the last 10 years? Well, the reason I am where I am today is because of a network of CEOs, most of whom, but not exclusively, most of whom were African Americans, who grabbed me up and said, "You're representing an important YMCA in our country." And at that time, it was the Springfield YMCA, America's second YMCA. And they said, "You're representing an important YMCA and an important community. We want you to be successful. So we're gonna partner with you. We're gonna be there for you. We're gonna call you and see how you're doing. We're gonna ask you questions. We're gonna support you. We're gonna invite you into this network of other leaders, and so that you get what you need in order to fully understand this movement as quickly as possible, and to understand your responsibilities to those you serve, as we, this peer community, see it." So they grabbed me up. Eric Mann, Angie Reese Hawkins, Dave Brown, Harold Menzel, Carol Krieger, Sal Cisneros. I mean, they just all, Glenn Haley, they grabbed me up and surrounded me, and they are Kevin Washington. They are the reason why I'm able to be in the position I'm in and do the work that I do. They're the reason I have the understanding of the importance of this work that I have. And so that's an example of how a peer network, a personal board of directors, so to speak, helps a person, reach certain goals and expectations that they have for themselves and for the communities that they serve. Now going to community partnerships, if we want to be relevant in this movement, we must find the experts in our community and partner with those experts. If we want to fail in this movement, then we will consider ourselves the only experts on everything. And so what I mean by that is there are things that other organizations currently do and will continue to do far better than the YMCA is ever going to be able to do it. And we have to accept that fact. That's not a knock on us. But what we must do is we must find those organizations doing that incredibly important and meaningful work in the community and partner with them. And what happens when we develop that partnership? Then all of a sudden the community's capacity to do more is expanded, it's strengthened. And then we start to get meaningful results. Because, I mean, think about it this way. You step into a community and it's all of a sudden a Y program. Who wants to support a Y program? No other organization wants to support a Y program. But you step into a community and you're part of a collaboration, and now the collaboration is bigger than any of the organizations that are part of it. Now you start to accomplish some meaningful goals. You start to make a meaningful impact, and that's what we want to do. So in Boston, all the the talk around the nation about community police relations. I can tell you that one of our strongest partnerships in the city of Boston right now is with the Boston Police Department. The police commissioner comes to our events. He was at 2 events this week, speaking on behalf of the YMCA and talking about the relationship that we share with his police department and the way in which together we're creating a safe community in the city of Boston, and that we will continue to work on creating a safer and safer community for everyone in the city of Boston. And last summer we had 35 separate events where there were children, youth, and teens interacting with police officers, building relationships, getting to know each other. We think that strengthens our community and makes our community a safer place for everyone. That's our goal, and that's how we're accomplishing it. The police officers identify 175 kids through their work that they think could benefit from going to day camp. They tell us who those kids are, and we scholarship those kids to summer day camp. That's a partnership. That's how it's supposed to work. Those are the kids that the police are identifying as needing that kind of enrichment and engagement and stimulation the most, and we're happy to be that organization that's partnering with them to create safe places for those 175 kids. We'd love to serve more kids. Anyway, that's just one example.
It's just one. I love that. That's amazing.
You know, we talk about all these things, right? You know, in every community, and I don't want to turn this into, you know, being all about the why of Greater Boston, because frankly, what we're experiencing in Boston is no different than what's being experienced in other communities across the country.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make that really clear. Every community that's listening in probably has childhood hunger going on, probably has an achievement gap, probably has youth that are engaged in violence, probably has an opioid crisis, probably has homelessness, has workforce readiness issues, has an array of chronic diseases, and has the challenge of dealing with a fragile relationship between the community and police. That's not unique to Boston, but I can tell you one thing. Those are the issues that every YMCA and every urban community across this country must be courageous enough to address, and must put resources behind that courageousness.
Well, we thank you for your honesty, and I honestly tremendously for all the initiatives you guys are launching and doing out there in Boston. That's truly phenomenal work. I truly think that gets to the essence of the why. And to be perfectly honest, I know for a fact, because I know a lot of these people, that you are often considered an inspiration to many of the young people coming through the movement, our emerging leaders. And with that in mind, given all the phenomenal things you're doing, it sounds like, you know, you got some times where it's probably a little bit rougher to keep going than others. I'm assuming that there's probably some books or some movies or some activities that you engage in to kind of keep yourself moving forward, to get that inspiration. So I guess to boil this question down is very simply, when you need inspiration, where do you go and what do you do?
Thank you for that question. When I need inspiration, I walk right downstairs and I watch what's happening in this full service YMCA that our offices are connected to. I get to see the children in our after school programs. I get to see the teens interacting with each other. I get to watch the folks who are here for health and wellness. In the morning, I'm in the locker room working out, and I'm listening to the conversation between men of different races and backgrounds and religions. And I'm inspired in each of those observations by the community that I think we're building. The community of belonging that I get to witness, and that really just it excites me and brings me great joy. And that's so that's one thing I do. The other thing I do is I walk down the hall. I walk down the hallway in our association offices, and I get a chance to be in the presence of some folks who I think are some of the most dynamic thinkers and leaders in the country, individuals who are willing to take on those hard issues, but really willing to think about how to do it in ways that make sense. And I'm inspired by the folks that I work with. So the people we serve inspire me, and the folks I work with inspire me.
So in this, again, going back to our core competency of community, in the spirit of that, if there's one nugget, if there's something that you want us to walk away from this conversation, you know, that truly highlights in your eyes the importance of just, you know, stepping away from behind your desk and engaging in community, if there's one thing that you could say and drop the mic and walk away, what would that be?
A walk hand in hand with others. Walk hand in hand with others. Do this work in partnership and in collaboration with others, and don't be afraid of that. So let me give you an example. So you can imagine, again, like every community across America, whenever the Y's brought up, the Boys and Girls Clubs are brought up. And I never, ever miss the opportunity to say, as I did just yesterday morning, by the way, we're not in competition with the club. We're not in competition with Boys and Girls Clubs. Our competition is poverty, hopelessness, and despair. And so our goal is to find ways for us to work with the Boys and Girls Club, work with the Boston Centers for Families and Children, work with any other organization that's serving young people, so that we can serve more, because we need to serve more if we're going to be successful in overcoming the conditions that young people are forced to live in today. So walk hand in hand and don't be afraid to collaborate and partner with others.
Can I, and Carson, I know you have a follow-up question, but I really just...
Well, I was actually just going to ask him if I could like quote him on that last one, because I definitely want to use that competition line next time I'm trying to recruit a board member.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, you know, because the very next question that comes after you say, hey, we're not in competition, you know, we're trying to collaborate. The next question is, how do you balance collaboration with maintaining your bottom line, you know, maintaining revenues and those things? And that's the question that comes up a lot.
It's a man, that's a great question. And so I'm gonna give you an answer. And my answer is this. You know, I've been in the Y for 10 years, but I've been doing community work for a long time. And I got to tell you, we don't have to worry about competition. If we create the systems that get good results, then we will get the funding we need to implement those strategies and those systems. We have to stop being worried about losing our stature in the community, losing our reputations in the community, losing funders. We're not going to lose funders. Funders are asking us, partner with this other organization, collaborate with this organization, and we will give you money. And if you get good results, we're going to give you more money. We've got to stop being afraid of losing something by partnering with other organizations. And they have to be afraid, they have to stop being afraid of partnering with us, because in many of the communities, we're one of the biggest organizations in those communities. So they have to be afraid, they have to stop being afraid to partner with us as well. Once we start to, anyway, that's to me that I think the loss of financial resources is an excuse not to collaborate. It's an excuse, plain and simple, because we're raising money by partnering with other organizations, because we're doing more, because those partnerships enable us to do more. And again, you want to compete. If you are competing with somebody in your community, the best way to compete is to develop the highest quality program with the greatest efficacy that you can, and not worry about what other people are doing. Do the great work. Great work gets great results, and great results get funded, period. Keep it simple.
This is awesome. I'm having so much fun right now. All right, so we're going to dial it down, because we not down, but narrow in a little bit more. We're going to talk to our audience. So, Mr. Morton, if you could ask every emerging leader in the entire country a question, you know, say, for example, they were to answer it on Twitter in follow-ups, or maybe we use this again or show this at an Emily one of these days, what's the one question you want to ask all of the emerging YMCA leaders across our entire movement? What do you want to hear from them?
So I want to hear answers to some of the questions you've asked me. So, for example, I want to hear, what brings you joy? What brings you happiness in your work? Where do you go for your inspiration? Those are really great questions that we all must ask ourselves in order to stay fulfilled in this work. You know, we're like a vessel, let's say, and we're giving out all the time. Sometimes there has to be stuff coming back in. So how do you get the stuff coming back into you so that you can sustain yourself, right? So there's that. The other is, I want to know, what do you need in order to feel valued? What do you need in order to feel valued? I understand that one of the challenges in our movement is that we don't pay people enough for them to sustain themselves. I think that we as a movement have to figure that out. That if we want our youth development staff to be true youth developmentalists, then we need to pay them a professional salary in order to get professional results. If we want to have counselors that make a difference in the lives of young people, then we've got to compensate. So I understand that money is an issue. I got that. But what else do you need to make you feel valued in your work? And then I think the second question that I would ask is, what keeps you committed? Because commitment is important. I mean, you're going to ask me a question in a minute, I'm sure, about some millennials. And I have a question for some millennials. And that question is, what keeps you committed to the work? So go ahead.
I think you just gave me an idea. So Andre, I'm going to propose something to you. I think after we get through this round of our ERG leadership, I think we should start doing interviews with emerging leaders. And then, you know what we should do? We should have them answer the question of the CEO or the vice president or whoever, and then just keep bouncing it back and forth. I think that would be cool. I'd watch it.
And those can be like quick segments of.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know what? Boom. James, see, this is why we got you.
He lights the candle, the inspiration.
Boom.
You guys are nice. Thank you.
We got like 6 of them laid out now.
Thank you. It's
So,
great.
in the spirit of real talk, right? So we do a lot of and there is the general scripted question that we'll go through and then come back to some more real talk. But in this age of millennials, what is it that you can tell us that would be, hey, if you want to quickly extinguish your fire before it starts, this is how to do it.
Right.
What would that be?
So, so here's the thing. So my sense is that millennials expect quick wins and believe that their path to leadership should be quicker, faster. So and by the way, I'm a fan of millennials. I think millennials are bringing creativity, innovation, bright ideas, new energy, and a commitment to public service to our movement. Our responsibility is to try to figure out how to hold on to them long enough for them to ascend into leadership. And so what's that path, in my opinion? What does that path look like? So let's think about this. Leadership is a learned experience. Leadership comes from leading. It doesn't come from reading a book. It doesn't come from a course you take in college. It comes from actually being out there and leading experiences. And so I think that what we need to do in support of millennials is to give them those leadership development opportunities and experiences so that they can begin to put the building blocks of leadership together and walk up that path to greater leadership. Because as much as they might think they're ready to lead, they're not ready to lead. Leadership is complex. It has so many different facets to it. And I do have great appreciation for the fact that many of our younger leaders are feeling like they're being held down, held back, not given the opportunity to thrive and have that full experience of leadership. My responsibility and our responsibility in leadership is to, in fact, create those opportunities for growth. And I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to do that in my way, and I hope that other YMCA leaders are doing the same. Try to find those opportunities to pass on some association-wide work to some of our younger leaders and let them do their thing and let them learn and grow from their successes and their failures. And that ultimately is through that experience, that growth of experience that comes with being successful, that also comes from failing and looking at your failures and figuring out what went wrong and learning from that, that ultimately will develop that next generation of leaders. I'm very, very confident in our movement and the young people that are a part of the movement. I think that we've got some wonderful leaders in the pipeline. I'm just nervous that they're not going to stick around. So if anybody's thinking about not sticking around, I want them to call me, because I hate to hear about it after the fact, after somebody has left the movement as someone that you know that we have great faith in and looking forward to their leadership, it pains me to have people walk away before we get done with our support of them.
So to follow up, thank you for that, James. So to follow up, I want to have a hashtag real talk moment and kind of go off script here for a moment.
Okay.
In our current social climate, you couple that with your experience, you know, your roles and responsibilities as a CEO in Boston, as well as, you know, your work with the AARN and everything else going on in our world right now. I would love, you know, for you to take a moment and truly address the movement about what we need to be doing better in terms of, and I want to make these very, very specific in terms of our social climate, inequality. We had this conversation last week with Tina Weaver from Western North Carolina, and she really addressed this from the reference point of somebody that leads the LGBTQ resource network. And I would love to give you that same platform and opportunity to address that as somebody that leads the African American Resource Network.
So I would answer that question this way. I think that one of the greatest challenges that we have in front of us as a movement is the reticence on the part of some boards to hire Black and Latino leadership as CEOs. We've got some incredibly capable folks who could be wonderful CEOs, wonderful leaders of YMCAs. They're applying for jobs, but they're not getting the jobs because those boards are reticent to make that leap to hire a leader of color. And so I think that we need to figure that out. We need to try to understand why does that reticence exist and what can we do about it? How can we challenge it? How can we get people to see some of these board volunteers to see it as their responsibility to, in fact, hire and engage leaders of color and also leaders of diverse experiences for these leadership roles. And we've got to figure that out. Because if we don't figure that out, then what's going to happen is let's go back to the millennials for a second. If we can't promise the millennials a path to leadership, then they're going to find another organization that will provide them with a path to leadership. And if our boards are not hiring millennial leaders of color, then we're going to lose them. And so that's an issue that I'm hoping that we're going to start to work on sooner than later. So that's one. And then, then I think that our movement has to recognize the fact that the demographics in America are changing. They're changing today. They're going to continue to change, and we better be ready for it. And I'm a little concerned that we're having a whole lot of conversation about membership, but we're not infusing into that conversation about membership the demographic changes that are coming to America. And so we're never going to fully, accurately address the membership issue until we address the changing demographic issue and embrace it and figure out, well, how do we serve African American, Latino, Asian, folks with different religions, folks with different preferences, folks of different gender? How do we engage them in this incredible work that we think we're doing in the YMCA? How do we make them feel a part of the belonging that we talk so much about? How do we make them feel a part of the community that we're building, that we take such great pride in building? We've got to solve those two issues. Our boards have to be willing to hire African American and Latino and Asian and folks with diverse experiences, leaders, and we need to deal with membership as it pertains to a changing demographic. We don't do those things, then I think that our movement has a fairly short lifespan to it. And then lastly, I would suggest that we need to recognize the fact that some people are bringing some strategic advantages. If you grow up in this country poor, Black and Latino, and then you will have experienced some things that will put you at an advantage when you're serving young Black and Latino youth and families who are experiencing those same things that you experienced earlier in your life. That gives you an advantage. It makes you empathetic, not sympathetic. And there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. And so it is powerful to be able to be empathetic, because that gives you a deep understanding that can help you to guide people through and out of these challenging experiences that they're having. And so I think we need to recognize the fact that some of us are bringing some strategic advantages to this body of work. And since you're letting me go on, I got one more. And that is, if we say we're for all, then let's be for all the time, not just when it's convenient to be for all. And so I hope that we will always be an organization that opens our doors to everyone, no matter what the circumstances may be. And those are the ways I would challenge our movement as we move forward here. It's a great movement with great potential.
Wow.
But we got to do some hard work.
Mm.
Well,
Amen.
this is gonna be fun to rewatch.
I'm looking forward.
I'm
looking forward to watching this one.
Yeah. So, we're getting close to time. We really appreciated you taking the time to swing by and keep it real and have those real talk moments with us today. Very rarely do I not have a whole lot to say afterwards. I feel like it's all been said.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
I mean, James could have dropped the mic and we could have.
Yeah. I feel like I could have just shut off the broadcast right after that.
Yeah. Well, James, honestly, thank you. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom, your encouragement. I know I speak on behalf of Carson and so many other leaders, minority or not, in our movement when I say that, you are somebody that we look up to. You are definitely somebody that we see as an inspiration and as a role model in this organization. So for that and for taking the time today, I know it's Friday, I know it's a busy day for you, and you took the time to be with us today. I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you.
And that just further speaks to it.
It is my absolute pleasure to be here. I'm sitting here, and I'm a little, frankly, weepy, because I love you guys. I mean, this is the kind of work we should be doing. We should be talking about this work in a real way, so that we can find real solutions to these real issues. And you guys are a perfect example of two millennials who are pushing that envelope. And I know you're pushing the envelope. Trust me, I know you're pushing the envelope. And I appreciate the fact that you are. And I hope you and others continue to challenge those who are in leadership today, continue to challenge me, and continue to challenge my colleagues, and continue to challenge that African American network to be that organization that we should be in support of this incredible movement. So I'm really moved by your questions. I'm moved by your spirit, and I'm moved by your commitment to making sure that we continue to live up to the expectations that are out there for us. So thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, another fantastic cause-driven conversation. We really hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. Remember to like us, subscribe, hit the buttons down below. Feel free to answer the questions that were posed. Andre, what's the hashtag?
Hashtag ELRNATION. So it's ELRN Nation with one N.
One N. So, as always, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. I see that we've got one live viewer. Hi, whoever you are. We'll do the research and figure you out. James, thank you again for your leadership, not only there in Boston, but across the country, for being a role model. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Andre, any final parting words?
Nope. I'm done. I ain't got it.
All right.
On that note, we thank you both, gentlemen. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And for those of you who are watching, please tune in next time. We'll give you the location and information on the ELRN pages. Have a good one.
All right. Take care now.
Bye-bye.